guy that's 27. I hate Star Wars Resurrections. Boba died in Jedi. I'm Rich Boy J. Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back here with another video, and this is going to be another episode of Your Questions Answered. If you're unfamiliar with the series, Your Questions Answered is a Q&A series that I do here on this channel. So if you want to see one of your questions answered, leave it in the comment section below. Make sure it is Lego, Star Wars, Lego Star Wars related, and then check back next week to see if you made the cut. First and foremost, I want to say I hope you guys enjoyed that brand new intro. Yes, it's a little bit overdue. In fact, like a little bit over a month overdue. But I did finally go ahead and make the new intro. This is what you'll be hearing at the beginning of my videos for the next 11 months or so. So get used to it. Hope you guys enjoy that. First question is going to come from Jamin Grove. He says, if you could design a brand new Lego part for them to add to their inventory, what would it be? This is a great question because this is actually something that came up multiple times with me somewhat recently, but I'm thinking that Lego would actually very much so benefit from introducing a 1x1 clip with a stud on the other side. They have a couple pieces that are similar to this. We have like a 1x1 tile with a clip on top of it, and we also have like a 1x1 stud with like a bar on the back of it. But what I'm specifically looking for is basically a 1x1 stud with a clip on the other side, or vice versa, a 1x1 clip with a stud on the other side. I think this would just be a very functional piece. Like, I can't remember exactly what I was building, but I came to a situation where I'm just like dang, like I really wish there were, you know, a clip with a stud on the other side, which doesn't really seem like that far-fetched, especially considering that we have the two like opposites of this piece. I think at some point I could for sure see Lego introducing a 1x1 clip with a stud on the opposite side. I think that would actually be super useful. So my Lego guys who were in the trenches, who were, you know, making the Kaminoans happen, who were making the Inferno Squad minifigs happen, up next, 1x1 clip with a stud on the other. Next question comes from Wookie Brick Studios. He says, love the vids and the channel. YQA, if the entire Lego Star Wars group as a whole had something to agree on and to say to the Lego company, what would it be? This is actually a really interesting question. This is definitely one of the more interesting questions that I've received on YQA, because yeah, like if we all collectively got to make a statement to the Lego group, what would be the consensus? You know, like what I guess what would be the most important thing that we would want to relate to them? I think the first thing that comes to my mind, and I guess this might be a little bit cliche, but I think it certainly deserves to be said, but thank you. I think a thanks is definitely in order to the people who make the Lego Star Wars magic happen. Like these toys, these things that are just meant for kids to play with for the most part, are such a defining part of all of our lives. These are, you know, what have, you know, creatively inspired me to pursue the things that I pursued with my YouTube channel. These are the intimate moments that we've shared with a lot of people that we care about. These are things that have grown entire communities that, you know, have us going to conventions across the country or sometimes across the world to meet up with each other. Like, there is definitely a certain magic when it comes to Lego Star Wars, and a lot of talented people who are kind of the people who make it happen. So I think if I just had to say one thing to them, you know, there are obviously plenty of like things I could ask about or complain about, and I don't want to say that those things are invalid, but I think that, you know, as a whole, we could just give them thanks and appreciation for the joy and value that they've brought to our lives, because I honestly couldn't even imagine what my life would look like without Lego Star Wars, and I'm sure a lot of you feel the exact same way. So I think a thank you would certainly be in order. If I had to just give like my own personal thing, like outside of thanks that I would like to relate to them, I would just simply like to say that, like, you know, don't, I guess, forget the essence of Lego Star Wars. Like, don't forget why it started. Don't forget the core audience, which is like children, which is like play sets and those things that really give the, I guess, quintessential Lego play experience. At the end of the day, you know, the Lego name itself means play well. And I think that like play always has to be a central focus when it comes to Lego. I think it's very obvious that that's kind of, we're straying a little bit away from that when it comes to Star Wars. Like, I think if you were to go into, you know, Lego store and look at the Star Wars section, about like 50, maybe even 60% of the wall, maybe sometimes more than that, is filled with these black 18 plus sets that are obviously geared towards adults. And while those things certainly have value, and there are a lot of people who buy them, and there's, you know, a reason Lego continuously put these sets out, I would just hope that we don't ultimately lose sight of, you know, what I consider to be like the essence of Lego Star Wars. And for me, that is the minifigs, the play sets. Those are the things that really make the Lego Star Wars magic for me. So I would just ask that, you know, we don't lose sight of that. You know, it's okay to make those other products, but I think that the focus should always be those things. Next question comes from CB. He says, great video, love the questions and the well thought out responses. My one question is, what buildable character would you want to see next? I mix out on the Porg, sadly, and I would like to see some kind of small Ewok build. I think an Ewok build would actually make a lot of sense. It'd be kind of a more complicated one, just given like the anatomy of Ewoks. Like how big would we want? Like it'd be like a small teddy bear size thing, which I guess could work, but I don't know. I feel like for those like creature builds, I think the best looking ones are the droids. Like, I think most people would agree the Yoda one certainly leaves much to be desired. The Grogu one is cute in a lot of ways, but I'm not so confident you can accomplish that in a convincing way with an Ewok. It might be possible. In fact, it probably is possible. But I think that you'd get probably a much better looking set if you did stick with droids. So I feel like C-3PO is probably a natural one to kind of go to, especially since we've gotten like R2-D2. In terms of scale, it'd be hard to say how big they would actually want to make the C-3PO. Like if they wanted to make it scaled, it'd have to be quite tall to be able to be scaled with the R2-D2, which is certainly a possibility, but like you have to ask yourself, is Lego going to make like, I don't know, what might be like a $250, maybe even $300 C-3PO to stand next to the R2-D2. R2 obviously is super iconic. Maybe C-3PO is iconic to a lesser extent, but I'm not sure that could actually be something that they could sell as a set and that could be successful. But I'd love to know, what do you guys think? Like, what are some droids that you'd like to see kind of with our buildable like figure line? I mean, I guess I'm actually asking for like realistic options. Like, I know some people might throw out like Chopper, which, you know, would not be a bad set, but I don't see that happening. Like, we get so few Rebel sets as it is. But then we got BD1, right? And like that's like the first Jedi Fallen Order set. So I don't know, maybe Chopper is a possibility. But either way, let me know what you guys think about like what buildable droids you'd like to see. Next question comes from Ahoy. He says, if there were any 3 scenes from either the films or the TV shows to be turned into a diorama, what would they be and why? So I thought about this question a little bit before I start the video, and I think I want to like opt for 3 sets from, I guess, the 3 Star Wars trilogies. So if I had to pick one from the original trilogy, and this is one that I actually even thought about before I got this question, but I think that like a best spin like carbon freezing chamber room would actually be a very aesthetically pleasing diorama set. Like, I think that, you know, if you get like the colors, like the oranges and the grays and the blacks, they would contrast really well. There's obviously a ton of figures that you could use to populate this area. This would be a prime opportunity for us to finally get some sort of Chewbacca minifigure mold with like a C-3PO attached to his back. I think that would be super awesome. I would pay lots of money just for that alone. But obviously you could have Han there, Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, Bespin guards, Leia, R2's there. Like, there's a lot of figures you can kind of use to set dress a diorama like this. And I think that you'd have tons of greebling for the machinery. There's multiple levels to it. So I think like I would honestly be shocked if we never end up seeing like a best spin carbon freezing chamber diorama set, because I think that one probably more than any other thing I can think of that they haven't done lends itself very well to one of the diorama sets. As for the prequel trilogy, and as annoying as it is to say this, I feel that we are inevitably heading towards a Mustafar diorama set. And I also think we are inevitably heading towards that set being affectionately named the High Ground. Like, at this point, how could Lego resist the temptation to have a Lego set called the High Ground? Like, can you just imagine the prequel fans running to the Lego stores asking the employees if they could buy the high ground, right? I just see it happening. I know it's gonna happen. I'm just trying to mentally prepare myself for there to be a Lego set called the high ground. But outside of the memes, I think this will actually be a very cool looking set, especially if they can come up with some nice like lava technique. Like I think that the Dig of a Swamp set, the water looked really nice. If they could accomplish something similar to that in terms of level of detail with the lava, it'd actually be like a very cool looking set. And I mean, if they really want to go above and beyond, maybe we can get a uniquely like Mustafar tattered Obi-Wan and Anakin. I know they did that before with like the $20 or $25 dual set, but they can maybe even just give a different unique print. I mean, if you go back and look at Revenge of the Sith, they made dozens of outfits for both of them for that entire sequence. So they could for sure, do like a different type of design with them, just showing the battle damage and wear and tear from dueling on Mustafar. But I think that's for sure the one that they go with from the prequels. As for the sequels, and this is also another one they've already done, but I still think that it's such a scenic type of scene. It would translate very well to a set, and it would actually kind of be unique in a way. Because like Lego did the Star Killer base duel between Rey and Kylo, I could see them doing that duel, but instead maybe having like the end portion of the duel where the ground splits between the two of them. So you'd have like, a snowy forest builds kind of end capping the diorama, and then in the middle you'd have like the lava and such kind of like breaking apart the two land masses, and you'd have Rey and Kylo on either side. And I think that actually would look really, really cool. It'd also be awesome if maybe they could like work it out to where you can display it either way. You can have both sections together or separate them and have the lava showing. That's probably more involved than they'd want to get for a diorama set, but it could be a cool idea nonetheless. So those are my pitches for Lego diorama sets. I'd love to know what you guys think about my ideas, and also like what diorama sets would you personally like to see. Next question comes from Squidman. He says, with the insane rise of Lego Star Wars minifigures somewhat recently, do you ever feel these expensive prices are negatively affecting your view on some of your own figures? I know that I have certain expensive figures that I don't even like messing with fear of damaging them, and I question whether I should sell some figures, considering I could buy a UCS AT-AT or build a big mock by selling like 6 figures. That's a very good point, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I definitely feel it. Like, the minifigure wall was something that I was super excited about, and it still is, like, for the most part. Like, looking at it, it's really cool to see all those figures together. But, like, when the topic of Lego Star Wars minifigures comes up now in general, I feel like there's always a lingering feeling of just, like, disdain, just given how, insanely priced so many of them are nowadays. And especially if you know why so many of them are overpriced nowadays. Like it's a huge turnoff, I would say, and I can only imagine what it would be like for someone who's just getting into Lego Star Wars and going back and looking at some of the cool figures they might want to add to their collection, like Thrawn, for example, and the prices are just outrageous. Like it makes no sense. It takes a lot of the fun out of collecting, which really sucks. And I think another thing that's kind of unstated is, I feel like back in the day, you could bring, we were Lego Star Wars figures to a friend's house and be like, oh, cool, like, I'll trade you this guy for this guy, I'll trade you that guy for that guy, and just kind of have fun with it. But nowadays, it's like, you show up and you're like, oh, like, let me check the bricklink price. I might be giving away a $200 figure for no reason. So it really does suck. Unfortunately, there's nothing that can really be done about it, unless a lot of people end up speaking out about a very small group of people. And I don't know, it doesn't really seem like that's something the community really wants to do. So that sucks. But there's definitely a kind of like lingering aura of negativity around Lego Star Wars minifigures, just given how like the prices have just spiraled out of control. Final question comes from Zahn. He says, I know it's kind of a broad question, but where do you see Lego in the next 10 years? I usually do not like to think like this since there's so much happening even in 1 week in the Lego community, but I would love to hear your take on it. This is a great question. This is where we're going to end the video. So, and I think it's kind of cool to like end the video thinking about the future. But 10 years, man, that's such a long time. I think, you know, the best way to answer this is maybe to look back 10 years ago and kind of see how different things were, and kind of use that as like our measuring stick to see maybe what we can expect 10 years from now. Okay, so I went ahead and pulled up Brickset here just to look at the 2012 Lego Star Wars sets to really just see just how different things were 10 years ago. And just kind of scrolling through this, you know, this was the era of the Clone Wars styled clones that I am not a fan of at all. So glad we've moved past that. Leg printing was also not really a standard here, as we can see by this battle pack right here. Droid Escape, like we have new Stormtroopers now, new R2. C-3PO has a dual molded leg now. Geonosians, this is actually like pretty cool because this was like the last time we got Geonosians, I'm pretty sure. Oh god, it's so weird. I feel like, but since this, we've gotten a better and a worse TIE fighter, so it's kind of like a mixed bag. X-Wings have certainly improved. Interceptors, I'd say, are more or less the same. Y-Wings have improved as well. Desert Skiff was already a good set to begin with. I do think they made improvements to it on the more recent one, but this one was still pretty good. Gungan set. Man, that Queen Amidala figure. But yeah, you can see, like, even at this point, like, all these figures actually just look old. Like, the lack of leg printing, like, the Jedi is now just, I don't know, they look so much more detailed. Like, the leg printing, especially for Jedis, I would say, makes a very big difference. And we're still getting Clone Wars, like, ugly Clone Wars face figures. But the Jabba's Palace set was really good. These figures, I say a lot of these actually still do hold up. Like, Ula, even the Gamorrean Guard, Bausch. Oh god, we've got the old Chewie mold. That's so weird. Oh man. This set, like, tons of awesome figures as well, but still definitely a level below the detail that we see for modern figures. Look at the UCS sets. We just recently got a new R2, definitely a level above this one. And UCS B-Wing, not a bad set at all, but kind of one of the more unmemorable ones, so to speak. But yeah, I guess that's it. The rest of these are just like weird promotional things. But yeah, let's see. So given what we just saw with like the 2012 sets, for 2032, if there's one thing I can say is I think that like arm printing, it's becoming even more prominent now, but I think it'll become pretty standardized by that point. Like I would say if there's any sort of detail that can be represented on a minifigue's arms, I think that Lego's definitely going to do it. I would certainly hope that dual molded legs becomes a standard as well. This is something that we've seen, you know, as very prominent across some other themes. Like I think superheroes gets dual molded legs relatively frequently. The CMFs, obviously, those get all the really cool bells and whistles when it comes to minifig detail. But I'd love to see dual molded legs become the standard for Star Wars. Like, I don't want to see any more Han Solo figures without the dual molded legs. I don't want to see any more Rebel pilot figures without dual molded legs. I think those would make a huge difference. In terms of sets, I mean, I would love to see the quality of like UCS sets especially start to kind of level out with the quality of some of the other big sets we're getting. Like at one point, I feel like the UCS sets from Star Wars were kind of the trailblazers when it came to detail. But now we get so many just gorgeously designed sets and other themes, you know, like the Titanic, like the DeLorean, like the Guardians ship. And I feel like the Star Wars UCS sets are kind of lagging behind in terms of detail. So I would hope by 2023, maybe Star Wars can once again become like a trendsetter when it comes to getting, you know, new pieces and employing interesting techniques and just, you know, I don't know, like having more snot aesthetic. Like you look at some of the sets, like the typewriter or like the Titanic or the piano and things like that, where Lego is very obviously trying to use and employ a lot of snot techniques, whereas with, you know, like the UCS AT-AT, for example, the land speeder even, they're like not shying away from studs at all. So I'd like to see, you know, maybe Star Wars sets get more of the snot treatment and have a more clean, sleek look for the UCS sets specifically. Other than that, Just one thing I'd personally like to see, and this is not going to come as a surprise to anybody, but you know, just more play sets, more figures, more of those types of things that really get the community excited. I would hope by that point that a lot of the minifigures we've been wanting for a while keep getting filled out even more. And I don't know, like there's still multiple prequel C3POs that we could be getting. I think there's still an opportunity for a lot of like Force Awakens characters from Maz's Castle and Jakku that we could be getting some cool aliens. And Lego's definitely like trending towards that direction. I'm not saying that these are things that they're not doing, but I would want this to be even more fleshed out by the time of 2032. So those are just some of my thoughts. I would for sure love to know, what do you guys think Lego Star Wars will look like in 2032? By that point, hopefully we'll have more Star Wars movies. If we don't, I'm going to rip my hair out. And I don't know, like the landscape of Star Wars could be completely different by that point. Like we could all be mass building like armies of things that we just have no clue about at this point. So it's very exciting to consider, where we were 10 years ago, where we are now, and then the possibilities for 10 years from now. So that's where I'm going to end the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed checking out your questions answered this week. Like I always say, if you like what I do, go ahead and support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon.